welcome back to Soft Psychology Club, where we discuss all things related to self-doubt, psychology, well-being, and honestly, who knows what else at this stage. I'm April and I'm really glad that you're joining me. I have a delicious cup of chai tea here and I'm really excited to talk to you today about aging and birthdays and the fear of missing out, I guess you could say. So it's my birthday this week. I feel like the older we get, the more reflection birthdays really trigger. You know, we often have cake and think of birthdays as a celebration, but I think for a lot of us, birthdays can really feel like a bit of a annual performance review. And for me personally, it really highlights this fear of, potentially wasting my life or not fulfilling my potential. I've always thought about this quite a lot, but it's been probably on my mind a lot more in recent times, and it's that fear that I'm, wasting my potential or that I could be doing something bigger and better. I've always been, the youngest in my friend group, I think, and for so long I've been told that I'm young and I have so much time, and I was always told that I looked older than I am. But I've gotten to that point now where it's actually a compliment when people tell me I look younger than I am, and I feel like that for me signifies a real turning point. When I was like 19 and people thought I was 23, I was like, oh my god, that's such a compliment. And now when people say that I look younger than I am, I'm like, okay, cool, which that's probably a whole other topic in itself that we could get into actually. And I think the fig tree metaphor from The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath is a really beautiful reflection of this. In The Bell Jar, Sylvia Plath's protagonist dreams of a story about a fig tree, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's something like hang on, I'm going to look it up. She says, I saw my life branching out before me like the green fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest, and as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one they plopped to the ground at my feet. My friend shared this quote with me, and then I went and bought the book and read the whole thing, and it's just really stuck with me. I think the story of the fig tree really represents this fear of missing out on all of the possible lives we could lead by committing to any of them. So straight after college, I went to uni, and unlike a lot of my friends, I haven't yet traveled the world, but then I have a reasonably successful career as a psychologist instead. I mean, depending on how you define successful. But, it meant that by choosing one path, I missed out on another path. And by choosing this path, I missed out on all of these different paths. But then you can't commit to one path without missing out on the others, because otherwise you miss out on all of them. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit now, but I hope that this is kind of making sense. I think that nowadays with social media, the number of alternative pathways are constantly visible to us. Every time we scroll, we see variations of the hundreds of possible pathways we could have taken, which makes us really question if we took the right one. And then you add the pressure of the social clock. So that's the cultural set of expectations for when certain life events should be happening. So say graduating at 18 and then having a stable career and then being married and, buying a house and having children by 30, that kind of set timeline that society tells us is the norm. And if we deviate from that, it just really welcomes in so much self-doubt. But the reality is that the social clock was designed in a completely different economic and social era. It's so outdated nowadays. Like expectancy was a lot shorter back then, and women weren't having babies as late in life. And yet our brains are wired for social belonging. So when we feel like we're behind, even like what are we behind? Even if we're not behind, our amygdala interprets that as social exclusion, and we feel like we're going to be left out from the group, I guess. And that really feels like a threat to our survival, because we need the group's approval, we need to belong to the group for survival. We've talked about that in other episodes. And in response, we feel this desire to conform to what we perceive to be the form, because that's what's viewed as safe, even if that's not really what we want to do. So we have this weird combination of feeling like we should be following a set timeline of events, and at the same time, this feeling that we should be traveling the world or volunteering in other countries or pursuing this passion or interest. But realistically, we can't do all of those at once, which also goes against the grain, because hustle culture, that hustle culture of the last decade or so, has told us that we can and that we should be doing everything. We can have it all and we should be doing it all. And this just creates so much pressure and so much stress that we get stuck in this analysis paralysis, and it can be really difficult to do anything at all. There's also this concept around being in a mediocre situation and how that's actually worse than being in a really bad situation. So we'll just use the workplace as an example. But if you were stuck in a job that you really, really hate, that's probably going to motivate you to try and find a new job and leave and hopefully enjoy your new job more. But if you're in a job that's like mildly dissatisfying and you don't love it, but it's not that bad, you're not going to be motivated enough to go and seek change and find a job that is actually fulfilling for you. So what's the solution here? Like, what is the answer? I mean, what's the question? I don't even know quite what the question is that I'm posing. But I think basically any action is better than none. So I'd really encourage you to ask yourself and, ideally journal on this a little bit. But what feels scarier? Making a change or, trying something new, or not making any changes at all? And I'm going to take a bit of a stab in the dark here and say that it's likely a sense of self-doubt that's holding you back from making any of the series changes that you've been feeling kind of drawn to. But I'm going to tell you the truth here. We have this massive fundamental misunderstanding of how confidence actually works. Most of us are waiting for the feeling to arrive. We think that once I feel confident, then I'll post that video. Once I feel ready, then I'll apply for the promotion. But confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. So think of confidence as a loop. If you wait for the feeling, you stay in the thinking phase. And what happens in the thinking phase? Overthinking, rumination, and anxiety. Your brain doesn't learn that you're capable by thinking about being capable. It learns through doing. So when you take a small action, even if you're terrified, you provide your brain with new data. Your brain goes, oh, well, we did that thing and we survived. We're still here. And that builds up that tiny little bit of confidence. In my program that I run, or in my one-to-one cognitive consults, which you can book through the link in my bio, I often talk about the follow-through fund as a way of building self-efficacy and more confidence in yourself. So we know that competence actually precedes confidence. you wouldn't expect to feel confident driving a car before you've even turned the ignition on and sat in the driver's seat, right? There'd probably be something wrong if you did. You feel confident after you've gripped the wheel, made some mistakes, parked a bit crooked, and eventually realised that you can handle driving this car. So self-doubt is just a lack of data, and the only way to get that data is through the doing. So long story short, action comes before confidence. And if you continue to doubt yourself, you'll continue to do nothing at all. We're so good at making excuses that keep us stuck in our comfort zone and in a place of self-doubt. But realistically, you're only ripping yourself off by letting those excuses stop you. Actually, you're kind of ripping other people off too. If you've always dreamed of selling your artwork, for example, other people are missing out on the opportunity to enjoy your artwork if you don't share it. Or if you've always dreamt of opening your own business, you're missing out on, or other people are missing out on the opportunity to access your product or service if you don't at least give it a go. Even with me pivoting my business, if I don't push through the self-doubt and give it a go, people won't be able to access the service that I want to provide. So I want you to think back to all of the times that you've doubted yourself in the past, but you pushed through. What happened? Did you make it in the end? Well, if you're listening to this, I bet you did, right? So you can really think about that. All of the times you've doubted yourself, you've eventually been okay, which tells us that if you doubt yourself in the future and push through, chances are you'll be okay. And a lot of people get stuck in the sunken cost fallacy, where they think to themselves, well, I've spent 10 years in this career, in this relationship, in this mindset. If I can't change now, those 10 years were wasted. But the truth is, the time's going to pass anyway. Whether you stay in the doubt or you take the leap, you're still going to be a year older at your next birthday. Do you want to be in the same spot this time next year? Or do you want to accept your previous choices, take the lessons, make some changes, and be in a better place this time next year? Since it's my birthday week, I'm going to give you a bit of a present and share with you 3 things that I do to, ground myself a little bit when I start doubting myself and worrying that I'm wasting my life. So the first one is a bit of an evidence audit, so to speak. So rather than making a list of all the things I want to do, I can make a list of all the things I've already done. So it doesn't have to just be the big achievements like finishing uni or, winning a prize. I don't know if I've really ever won any prizes, but just as an example. It can also be the smaller things. So maybe it's I learnt to set this boundary, or I figured out that I'm not willing to accept this in a relationship, or I took this leap of faith. The next is to identify the shoulds. So you can write down 3 things you feel you should have done by now, and then ask, do I actually want these things, or do I just want the relief of meeting a social expectation? If you don't actually want them, cross them off. Give yourself a birthday gift of less pressure on my behalf. And the third is the future self visualization. Imagine yourself 10 years from now. And imagine that version of you looking back at you today and thinking, oh my God, you were so young, you had so much time, why were you so worried? Try and channel that perspective now. I think we've all seen those comparisons on social media where it's like quite an elderly lady, and then the other side of the screen is a really young person, and the young person's saying like something they're feeling insecure about, and the old lady's like, I wish I was that beautiful now, and look how beautiful I was. It's sort of channeling that, where you're going, you're sort of giving yourself a pep talk, I guess, from your older self's perspective. There's a bit of a bonus. We've already done 3, so I guess this is 4. But I think something else that really helps this is to romanticize your life a little bit, like become a bit obsessed with your life, because if you've enjoyed it, then it's not really wasted. So that might look like, prioritizing pleasure in your day to day and your week to week. It doesn't all have to be hustle and grind. Like, what can you add into your day that you really enjoy? Because then it's not a day wasted, and it could be as simple as having a really beautiful tea and a Turkish delight Easter egg. I really like these ones. I know that's a bit controversial, but love them. Or it might be making sure that you get a walk in each day, not for the exercise, but because you really enjoy it, or scheduling a catch up with your mum or your best friend. Where can you inject joy and pleasure into your life and romanticize all of the little things as much as possible? So, if you feel like self doubt is keeping you stuck and you're overthinking your way out of making any decisions or any actions at all, you can change this. You just need my help. I offer one-to-one consults where we can work through that self-doubt and give you some actionable strategies to move through it. And I also offer a full program specifically designed to help you conquer self-doubt and overthinking once and for all, so you can stop getting in your own way and start living the life that you truly want to. You can send me a DM or check out my socials, which will be linked below for more information or to find out more about me. I think it's time for me to go and enjoy my Easter egg and the rest of my tea. But I really hope that you found something valuable in this episode. If you haven't read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, it's quite heavy, but it is quite a profound novel, I guess you could say. I really loved it, and I think I might reread it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this, and I hope to see you next time.